One. Hello, Yogan. Welcome back to the Yoga Engineers. I am Richelle Ricard.
And I'm Elena Chung.
And this is Elena Chung. We are together once again, bringing you some conversations about yoga, yoga culture, yoga teaching, yoga practice. Sometimes we veer off into all sorts of other things. You should have heard us talking conspiracy theories earlier. That was fun. Who knows where the day will take us. Today's episode, we're hey, you just don't know. Anything can happen.
We go.
Exactly. So today's episode, we are going to be discussing the teaching of and the taking of yoga classes online versus in person. Most of us around the world are still in quarantine. It is the middle of May, I think May 11th is when we're recording. And so we have been, in so-called shelter in place for almost 2 months. That's a long time.
Wow, it really has been 2 months.
Yeah.
That's
for
crazy.
Real. Like I think San Francisco went into shelter in place May 16th or March 16th.
March 16th.
So I know. we're in the rabbit hole fully. So that said, yoga studios around the world and in our respective cities, Elena's in Seattle and I am in Portland, definitely shut down. We shut down actually before the shelter in place orders came through, and there was kind of a tiered experience of saying, oh, we're not going to use props and we're not going to practice. I remember actually our studio, I don't know if you got these messages, but even before the minimizing of props, it was, don't do lion's breath. Like, don't all up in the room.
I mean, yeah, that'll make it.
They said certain pranayama should not be taught in these classes right now. And then it was like, okay, don't use any soft props like blankets or blocks that you can't readily like spray down and wipe down. And then it was like, okay, we're going to stop teaching in person. So it's now been the very quickly getting the online studios up and running, and I think that the studios around here did a really great job of doing that really quickly, and I'm sure that they've just evolved since. How about Seattle, Elena?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, I'm most intimate with the studios that I am teaching at and I'm a part of, but like I think what has been really interesting is seeing which studios and gyms have been so quick to adapt, because that's an inherent sign of like the leadership and the management behind it. And some places seem to have kind of fallen off to the wayside or just have maybe closed down for now. But at the studio that I'm teaching at, Yoga Bliss, it's really interesting to see that like I will have like some of the classes I've taught online have filled up with maybe like 40 people. I think I had 45 people signed up for a class that I taught, which is like bigger than any in-person class ever that I've taught because of the limited like physical space, obviously. So it's nice to see that there's that flexibility resonates with some people.
Yeah.
But it really has been an interesting time and an interesting switch.
Wow. Yeah, that 45 people in a class, that's amazing. Because it's not like you were, only had capacity in the studio for 20 and had been turning away 20, right? It's like all of a sudden now this class that maybe would get 20 people is like doubled in size because of this level of accessibility. I think it also stands to reason that people's schedules are vastly shifted and their priorities of time and where they're putting their energy is different. Not to mention that if you don't have to gather up all your gear and pack it in your car and then like get here after work or on your lunch break and be sweaty for your day if you're going to a morning class, or like the time that it takes to take even a 1 hour yoga class oftentimes is a minimum of 2 hours, depending on where you live and what the commute is and all of that. So 2 to 3 hours down to 75 minutes to just walk into your spare bedroom and step on your mat, do the class, and then go on to the next task. That's I think a gift. I have a friend in Canada who runs a studio, and she too has been taking her gym classes, right? Her movement classes and HIIT classes, high intensity interval training, for those of you who have never heard of HIIT training before. She's like, yeah, even when this, I mean, I really want to be in class and I want to be around people and I want to like be there with the trainer, but there's something incredibly easy and motivating about it being able to just like do it from home. She's like, even when we go back, I might still take a couple classes from home because of the ease. So I'm wondering if any of your students have given you any feedback of their intentions at this point. What, how they're feeling about like the convenience factor.
Oh, I feel like I had not an argument, but like a very lively discussion with a friend of mine who was very much on, and he is a student of, we're friends first, friends first before dating, you know, and friends first, before he also takes my class sometimes. So we had an interesting discussion about that, because I haven't had any direct feedback from people, from exclusively students. But he tends to think, his thought was like, people are going to really like the online platform and even continue to prefer it because they're introduced to this level of like how easy it is to do it, and they're going to want to keep doing that after things can get back to normal, whatever that actually means.
Yeah.
But I personally, from my experience as a student, because I take my gym's classes online and I really do enjoy them. There is a level of ease. My apartment isn't big, so I don't have a spare bedroom to go do my like movement practice in. It's like literally the size of like maybe like 2 yoga mats that I have in front of the TV. And so for me, it's like, I feel like a part of the reason that I enjoy going to like the gym or going to yoga classes is because there's like this certain level of accountability and like that group energy. And so I know for me, like I'm still gonna really I'm really looking forward to when I can go back to the gym. And I don't think that I will continue to opt for online options after this goes back to normal. Yeah. What about you? Do you like practicing? I don't know if you've been practicing online or if you like teaching. I know you're gonna be like, I want to be in person.
No, here's the thing. I in all of the versions of real life and fantasy life and whatever, I'm not a very good student, and I haven't been for a while. And I tend to learn through teaching, and whether that is my asana practice or my anatomy or my teacher training stuff or meditation, the more I can talk people through it, the more like information download I actually get. And it's not that I don't like reading about things, and it's not that I don't like going to class. I have very little discipline, and I am the first one to admit that that is my trial in this particular life, is like nailing down my shit and not just procrastinating 100% of the time. So, confessions of a yoga teacher / horrible yoga student.
Wait, I have a question. Do you have a bunch of Pisces placements or something? Or maybe like Taurus? I don't know.
Not a bunch. We'll have to look at my chart, actually. There's only a couple things that I know off the top of my head, but I think that there's a South Node in Pisces, but
that'll do it.
That's a big one. But yeah, we should check that out. Anyway, I definitely have an accountability issue. It's like if I have somebody to be accountable to, then I will show up, I will meet the deadline, I will do the work, I will work harder than anybody else to make sure that it's done the way it needs to be done. But if it's just for me, I'm much more likely to slack a bit. So that's a really long way of saying I have not taken any classes online. I even have one of the studios that I teach at, like they gave us the password to their online wellness platform that frankly is an interesting and different, it's not just live streaming classes. Like I went in and recorded a couple anatomy bits. And some people are giving recipes and guided meditations. And yeah, it's an interesting holistic wellness approach to this online situation. And we got the password in March. I think it launched April 1st, and they're like, you guys just don't give out the password, but come and take as many classes as you want, workshops, yada, yada, yada. And I logged in today for the first time because we're having a studio meeting tonight. And I was like, I should know what it looks like.
Oh my God, that's so funny. I appreciate your honesty.
I mean, accountability, here it is. So yeah, I have been teaching in order to get on my mat, right? And because I'm not teaching live streaming for any other studios, I just put it out there to my mailing list and said, hey, this is what I'm doing. Come join me, donation based. And so from a teaching perspective, I find the ease of being able to connect with my students is much higher than I anticipated. I thought that it was going to feel incredibly disconnected, and it doesn't. And yet my style of teaching is different. I have a friend, Maria, who's been teaching for one of her studios, and she teaches as she always did. She sits here, like in Zoom, there's the gallery view, right, where you can see all of the people logged in. And she sits at her camera and she looks at the bodies and she goes with what she's feeling from the people in class. And that's how she's always taught, and that's how she's teaching now. And I have totally upended my normal style, which just feels weird that that it's still working. That is yeah. So we can get more into the teacher perspective, but yeah, I think that there's lots that from the student perspective, that like there's just a lot of questions that can be asked. Not only are people going to want to come back to in-person classes versus being online streaming, but how quickly is that going to happen, right? We've talked about this
totally
before, right? That are people going to be really eager? Are people going to be like, yes, chomping at the bit, just get me into a classroom? Or are people still, even when things open up, going to be really judicious with their space, be judicious with their time and their exposure, right, to other people and places? And are they going to, is their yoga studio going to fit into the hierarchy of places that they come back to immediately? I don't know. What do you
I think that I could definitely see it going either way. I think that a lot of it has to do with like how things unfold over the next few months, right? Like, I think that maybe when this first started, after the first month, like there would have been more people saying like without having hesitation, like going back to their studio space and stuff like that. But I think as time goes on and as fear ramps up, or is like at the very least unmanaged, because I think that we're not doing a great job of managing fear at, not like you and me, but just, you know, larger governing bodies in our country.
Totally.
Like, I think as that fear goes up and like we don't have a way to think of it, especially, you know, when things go back to normal, if we do not have a healthy and logical way to think of it, I can totally imagine that it goes more towards this slow coming back into the studios. But I do think that a huge part of why people feel so eager to like, and why people enjoy doing yoga and working out right now at their homes, is because our homes have gone from being like a place that we get to like come home to, and now it's like prison, right? It's like the place we have to stay. And so working out or doing yoga like gives you this feeling of community, whether that's through the platform or through like Facebook groups or whatever. And I feel that when things start to transition back to normal, like that, I think that's just going to go out the window with that personally.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like, I think that there's a reason that people were going to gyms and studios because there's always been online yoga.
There has, and this is a very interesting thing to me. And this is kind of the segue between the student versus teacher experience, because I I put off putting classes online um, longer than my studios did for sure, right? Even though this technology is super easy, super accessible. I mean, who'd have thought? Gosh, we all wish we had invested in Zoom like 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Like, had we known what was going to happen, whew. Um, so I feel like I don't feel like I had a very, very clear opinion, as Elena would say, I still hold,
Mm-hmm.
about yoga videos. I have never, ever been a proponent of people learning yoga on video. I'm like, I get asked constantly, early in my career, well, what can I do at home? What video should I watch? What can I rent or buy or do? Like, what teacher should I, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, don't waste your money unless you are an experienced yoga practitioner who really
Yeah.
already knows your body. Like, do not do yoga at home. Find a teacher, find even just a beginner series of 4 to 6 week like intro session that you can get the basics down before you listen to somebody who cannot see you, period.
Totally.
I've been incredibly adamant about that for a really long time. And so the idea of distance teaching was one that I admit I was very resistant to for a long time. And I'd even have clients who would, like, when I moved to Portland, said, oh, can't we just like do an online teaching? Like, I'll just pay you still for my privates if you could like teach me online. And I'm like, yeah, we'll see about that. Let's see if we can work that out. And then 2 years later, still hadn't done it. I'm like,
Still not.
now that I know how easy it is, I'm like, God, I missed out on some money that I could have had. Yeah, interesting. So how have you felt about yoga videos? Both as maybe a student and a teacher.
Mm.
Did you ever do yoga by video?
I think I had a subscription to Yoga Glow for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done like a couple of like, who's that one lady on YouTube that everyone follows?
Oh gosh, I'm unfortunately the last person to
Yeah, you
ask.
wouldn't know. I don't remember her name. Anyway,
I totally reject her, whoever she is.
yeah,
I
yeah.
just
So like,
kidding. Just kidding.
it's too early in our podcasting career to make enemies. Okay.
Totally. No, I'm just an asshole who's not as funny as she thinks she is. It's fine.
So I have done some stuff online, and like, I would totally agree with this thought that the only reason that I can feel good about it for myself is because I know exactly like what to change or what to modify or how to like vary things up if I need to. And I think that, and this kind of bleeds into, or maybe is a continuation of what we talked about on one of our earlier episodes about like free yoga versus not free yoga and like the quality of yoga. But it's like, I think that I feel as if I'm able to discern quality teaching from not, so I can be more selective with who I'm choosing.
Totally.
And I think that it's worthwhile for me in the sense that I can like learn a lot of new stuff as a teacher as well when I'm taking it.
Mm-hmm.
It is hard for me to recommend things online for students who are asking, just because it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't have the level of specificity. It doesn't have actual eyeballs on you, and at that point it almost feels like I'm just recommending like a random workout routine. Like, I feel like because there is something inherently separate, like that separates yoga from like the rest of physical workout activities, and I think that that's a statement I can make without it being too like controversial. I don't know. So, and I feel like it loses a bit of its touch when it's online.
Yeah, I think that I agree with you there, that that yoga is distinctly different from fitness, right? it has a fitness aspect to it, but its holistic approach is different than that. It has an attention to the breath that is not purely mechanical. It has an integration of of thought, breath, movement, feeling, right? The body, heart, spirit, mind kind of connections to make. And unless the teaching in a video is incredibly specific and incredibly verbose in the possibilities of being where you're at, I think you're right. It's really hard for an individual to feel like they're having a personal experience as opposed to being just like led through a sequence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which we have definitely discussed ad nauseum, the idea of the difference between really being there in practice and just going through the motions, being led through a sequence. So, yeah, I will say that the irony of my feeling about that is that as a teacher who has now started teaching streaming classes, I have changed how I teach, right? When I teach a person in-person classes, I don't demo much. I am walking around each person. I'm behind the class. I'm beside the class. I'm talking a lot. I'm giving really individual verbal cues and adjustments, individual modifications, and I'm teaching in the moment, depending on what I'm seeing, right? Depending on the strength, the energy of the people present, the injuries that are present, the imbalances that are present. And you get so you know certain students who have been coming for a while, and you can really move with them, not just in progressing their asana practice, but really seeing where they are that day, right? Knowing that they're
Yeah.
rushing from work right now and they're totally frazzled and they need a particular kind of practice that may or may not have been what you intended, right? And making those like on the fly shifts and changes. Online, because I have started recording my live streaming classes as video to post on our website, who'da thunk, I am not doing what Maria does. I am not sitting there and watching everybody in gallery view and like teaching to them with only my words. I am, for the first time in most of my career, I maybe demoed for the first year or so that I was teaching, demoed a lot of the class. But now I'm practicing and I'm calling it out. It's like a call and response kirtan where I'm like, okay, say repeat. I'm now saying what I'm doing as I'm moving through a practice. And I'm
Totally.
demoing the entire thing, which is so out of my comfort zone as a teacher. But I'm finding that I'm using my words still, right? I'm talking about the details and the minutia even as I'm doing them, and I'm making those small little adjustments, and I'm just hoping that people are hearing it and being able to execute it. So far I've gotten pretty good feedback, and I haven't had anybody go, I just don't get it. People have
Yeah.
asked me to elaborate after class, and I'm happy to stick around after and answer questions. And some people do that and take advantage of that. But it's been fascinating for me to go through this like personal, very fast personal evolution of being okay demoing the entire thing and then translating it into video. And I don't think I would do that. I don't think I would put even my own videos up online if I didn't really trust that I was still paying very close attention to how we're activating, how we're solidifying, how we're stabilizing, how we're balancing, how we're finding middle ground instead of going to extremes. I'm putting a lot more trust. Last episode, we talked about like whether or not we trust our students, right? To know their bodies well enough.
Yeah.
And for the first time, I'm trusting that they're going to hear what I say and do it without me being like, listen, because that's what I do in class when we're in person. So, yeah, it's been a fast learning curve for me, and I've like come a full circle, and it's feeling much better than I anticipated.
Gosh.
Yeah,
All
you,
it takes.
you have like, you're teaching for a studio online and doing some of your own stuff for your Instagram little mini workshops. So tell us about your experience from the teaching perspective doing video.
Let's see. I thought, so this is kind of piggybacking off of something that you said, but like, well, also I wanted to make the comment that I think that it's funny that it took like a global pandemic for you to decide to put your classes online. Like it was the only way that was going to push you to like do things in that way. That makes me laugh.
Totally.
All it takes is a little global pandemic.
I mean,
yeah, that's it.
all you had to do was ask.
Yeah, right? By forcing the world to shut down.
Totally.
Like, is that too much? Anyway, so I think so what I found really interesting is like, I think that teaching online like definitely narrows like the variety of ways in which we can teach, like you said, just because of like you really only have like so few options when you're teaching online. Like you can't do all the things that you normally do, like which is giving such individualized personal adjustments, and we all are, it's almost like narrowing the way in which we all get to teach. So it kind of, I think sometimes has this potential to make things, I mean, like there's still some variety and of course there's still difference in quality, but it feels like it's harder to stand out is something that I've noticed when teaching online, just because I think that one of my skill sets as a teacher is being able to make adjustments based on what I see in the room. And so it's almost, I think it's really interesting because now, and this certainly played a role, I think, in like real life yoga, but I think that personality is like starting to become like a huge, like, or maybe I'm just picking up on people's personalities as really being like a cornerstone of like why people keep coming back to you. And like that like likability on camera factor, which is something that I just never considered before.
Yeah, interesting. You never considered that before?
Being likable on camera?
Oh my god!
Oh, I don't.
That was a thing. I'm like, oh my gosh! Just looking at Yoga Journal before videos, I was like, oh gosh, the cult of personality is so real in the yoga world.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I just like, maybe I just didn't think about it that much in terms of like being online. Like I like forgot that was a reason, maybe like a bigger part of the pie as to why people come and watch you on the internet, right? Like not having known about you before. I don't know. I'm also just privileged because I have like my little community in Seattle. But
I think that's very true. I think that we are very lucky, as a interrupting side note, that yes, we are incredibly lucky to have come from communities that are like, it's impossible to believe that they weren't totally saturated, that you could like, but people were still opening studios when this was happening. Like that there's still more people wanting to come. And yeah, we had, and I've been practicing since what was it, 2003, right? Like my really dedicated practice. And so I've seen a huge evolution from there being just a like ripe handful of like yoga deities, right? The Baptiste and, of course the first echelons of Joyce and the whole Krishnamacharya lineage, tree, but still like there was a huge exponential growth from the Shiva Ray family and the Baptiste family, and the way that power yoga and vinyasa kind of went their different ways, and then the forest yoga, and like that there were these distinct styles built on people's personality, right? That
Yeah.
most of the world, the only way they got exposed was through those yoga rock stars who were focused on in Yoga Journal.
Totally. And I guess like, so I guess maybe, and I am aware that it did work in that way. I think maybe what I'm saying is like, because everyone's online now, like it's like there's just like a bajillion more people trying to do the same thing. Whereas, and I'm not saying that wasn't the case when people were getting picked for Yoga Journal, but like we all have our own Yoga Journal now. Like we can just put our shit out on the internet, right?
Yeah.
And so like for me with my teaching, because there are certain things that I can't make use of online, I've had to I like had to like really think before I started posting Instagram videos. I had to really think about like what exactly I was trying to do, right? Like I didn't want it to just be something where I felt pressured to keep having a presence, or I felt pressured to give back, such that I made some sloppy or like some video that just added to the noise. I think that was what was really going through my head when I was making videos. And so I was like, well, I know what my skill set is, and even if I can't do the adjustments or the individualization on the internet, like I can really work things from like the anatomical perspective, or like I don't want to use the word therapeutic, but something in more of like a recovery or like body part specific practices. But yeah, I don't know. I think I like it, and I'm glad that I feel that I can make a difference in people's lives. And I actually felt like I got a lot of feedback from people who were not moving or practicing yoga beforehand, and like hearing that, like, and I think maybe also the variability of time where I can do 15-minute videos has like suddenly made it way more accessible to people who maybe weren't doing it at all before. And I think that feels really rewarding to me. So one of the silver linings that I've found from my teaching online is that I can make it something even more specific for people who would have maybe never tried it in the first place. And I think that has been a cornerstone of like what I enjoy about teaching online.
Yeah. Have you actually noticed, I mean, I don't know if you follow your metadata feedback stuff on who's logging on and who's watching your shorter videos, but are you garnering more new viewers? Are you actually like, are people noticing who weren't your students already? Like,
Yeah.
are your Instagram followers sharing and posting and reposting on Twitter and doing that stuff, like the social media exponents? Are you seeing that it's done that, and that you are getting more well known?
I think it has in its own way. So I admittedly am not the type of person to be like, hashtag yoga pants, hashtag like yoga every damn day, and like hashtag like yoga mom or what. Like I don't do I'm making fun of it because I think it's really silly. And like anytime I start listing hashtags, I feel really dumb. Like it feels really contrived, right? So I'm just not the type of person to like put a shit ton of hashtags on it. So I guess my point is, even though I've made these videos, it was more to support the people within my group already, or just like for anyone who is interested. And I figured if they like it enough, they're going to share it. And like that has been something that has happened. Like I've had some friends who've been like, I share this with all of my old coworkers, and like I sent these to my parents, and like I sent like, is it okay if I keep recommending your videos? And so,
is it okay if I keep recommending your videos?
Yeah, someone said that, and I was like, yes, it is okay. Thank you. It was really sweet.
That's actually funny, because just today, as I last night posted a reminder that I've been teaching online, and someone way from my past, an old massage school buddy, came through and was like, yeah, do you want us to share these? Like,
yes.
Yeah. I guess I didn't realize I still have to like say, please share.
Yeah, totally. It's really, yeah, it's so funny, right? It's like,
It is. It's so
So I feel lucky because I think that maybe, well, I'm tooting my own horn here. But I feel like it speaks to the quality of the videos, right?
yeah.
Like I definitely, because my goal for posting these is not necessarily to like become famous. Like that has never been an intention of mine on like Instagram. But I do want to help as many people as I can. So I trust that if it's been helpful, people will share it of their own accord.
Right.
And that's really all that I can ask for, and all that I want to ask for, just because of like the content, not just because of how I am, but just the context and the time that we're in. Like it feels weird to me to be like, to like give the regular spiel. It's like I'm not trying to like sell this in a time of crisis, you know what I mean?
Totally.
Like that feels shady.
Which is so interesting, coming back to what our second episode where we were talking about the value of yoga, and that actually some of this is the only way we could market ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's this interesting friction point where it's like, well, yeah, I want people to really know and hear about this, but my intention is not to like market myself, even though that's really like the primary mechanism of doing this. Like the only way it's going to get out there is for us to proliferate it and ask people to share it and do these things. Our nature isn't to ask for that. Our nature isn't to say, yeah, please do this, I need you to do this, even though really we do need people to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
we need folks to share it if they believe in it, if they hear something new and are like, oh my gosh, this is starting to change how I see, how I feel, how I move, how I act, and by consequence how I feel, then yeah, we need people to share it. So that said, we really should put a bunch of those up soon on the YouTube channel and the
Hint,
website
hint.
so that more people
Okay, I'm making a note of it right now.
send those files, Mamacita.
Okay.
Because you're right. Like it's not our deliberate action to market ourselves, but it is like what we have to do for the message to be sent out there. I mean, that's part of why we're having these conversations on camera and not just talking to each other over the phone anymore, right? So
Totally.
yeah. Isn't it so funny, that friction point though between like feeling like marketing is morally bad
Yeah.
and it's somehow against the ethics of a yoga practitioner slash teacher slash student to want or need or feel it's important that their perspective and their practice and their style and their approach and their philosophy be shared. It is so funny. Yeah, I remember actually reading an article early in my practicing career, that I think it was Sadie Nardini wrote an article about, okay, I've done it. I hired an agent. And she went on to say like why it was important and why she needed representation and why she was like taking her brand to the next level. And I don't even know if people know who Sadie Nardini is anymore, but
I have heard her name. Is she?
yeah.
I don't. Yeah.
She's been around a really long time, and she was one of the first, like maybe the second tier of yoga rock stars, kind of, with her own vinyasa style thing happening. I forget what it was called now, but I remember reading that article and thinking, oh God, like this is, if I want to be a yoga teacher who has something to say, do I really have to do that? Like eventually, is that what it's going to come to like be heard? And keep in mind, this was like before smartphones. This is early, right? When a BlackBerry was advanced. And so it's like there was no thought of this. There's no thought of having accessibility. Like podcasts were a really underground thing at that point. And yeah, and now here I am still engaged in that same exact friction point of like, oh, is that what we're going to have to do to like break through the noise? Like now we're not just trying to get our articles published in Yoga Journal, right? Now there's 16 different magazines you could try to get published, although none of it matters because nobody's reading magazines anymore. They're only watching shit online. And who's your favorite YouTube yoga teacher, right? And it's like, whew. Yeah, it brings up a lot of emotion, and not all of them are pleasant. I'm like,
definitely.
Like, what am I actually willing to do?
I feel so. Yeah, it's like I totally agree that it brings up a lot of feelings, and I think if I'm totally honest with myself, like I have thought about it, like to a certain level of depth, but I know that I have also purposefully ignored it because it makes me feel like so much cognitive dissonance. Like I don't know how to like take those two worlds and put them together. Mm-hmm. It's so weird because I feel like really successful yoga teachers right now, successful like commercially, like well-known in the yoga community, like they don't come off like they've done a lot of marketing and advertising. It's like this image is presented like they are well known because of how amazing they've been, and all that it is they just do the hard work, and then like the students just come from there. And I love this. I like love the idea that we could just be true to ourselves and teach what we think is right, and then the students will come. But I know that that's not the truth of like the way that these things go. So it's like, and then there's the part of me, and I think that I struggled with this for a long time, of like knowing my own worth, right? Where like I wonder if I don't believe that all of it has to do with just this idea that a yoga teacher shouldn't advertise themselves. I also think that it has to do with this idea that like you should be humble, or like a lot of people maybe come into yoga without, like, I don't want to generalize, but for a lot of, I feel as if it is not uncommon for women to not have been like taught how to like know their own self-worth, or how to ask for more money, or like how to like really show up and like be strong in what they believe and what they know about themselves. At least I grew up like not knowing those skills at all. And so I think there's just so many moving pieces that like all come together within the context of like what it means to be a yoga teacher, right? So it's like, oh, do like the ethics of yoga say that you could advertise yourself? And then it's like, are you the type of person who even knows how to do that if you wanted to? And then also it's like the perception of what other people think, because this is supposed to be a practice that's like inherently humble or like serving of others. So I just think it's like, I don't know. It's really hard. And like, I would like to think that I could get somewhere that is meaningful without like having to do that. But even that puts on this air that like having to do that is a bad thing, but no other field thinks that advertising is a bad thing. So it's just a huge fucking circle.
It is. And that's not even actually stepping back to your original premise, was that like the yoga teachers you respect just seem to have gotten there by virtue of their skills and talents and personality, when in reality they got there because they had a good agent who got their name in the right places to get their workshops and retreats into just the right level of like whose eyeballs are looking, right? Who, if we are teaching at just a tiny kind of mom and pop studio, as opposed to one of the big fancy places in town, and literally people drive by it because they don't know it's there, it doesn't matter how good of a yoga teacher I am, I'm still only going to get the word of mouth of the people who saw it, right?
Totally.
I can't even access the students necessarily who really would spiritually want my teaching specifically, who really would come in and say, hey, oh my gosh, you're my teacher, because they literally don't even see the box I'm in, much less me, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that there's an inevitability in this world where there are so many studios and there are so many teachers and there are so many different ways to come at it, the practice, that yeah, one way or another, you have to be able to cut through the white noise, right? And I think for the yoga engineering perspective and approach, we cut through the noise in practice by being different, not just because we're trying to be unique, but because we come from a distinctly different foundational philosophy, right? Than everyday vinyasa at a corporate chain, right?
Yeah, just
To
some
remain
corporate
unnamed.
chains to remain unidentified.
Exactly. You know who you are. I, it's and then when your resources are social media and online, again, so much noise. If you're not paying somebody to put you and your name and your brand in very specific, well-traveled places, people they're not gonna hear, you know.
Totally.
So those people that make it look easy paid a bunch of people to make it look easy.
Yeah,
100%.
which is like, it's so crazy to me because you would think that because of the practice of yoga and like what it entails, I I I wish there was like more transparency to the whole process.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a, I mean, that's like the same problem I have with a lot of Instagram type yoga type people where um they sell, you're like selling this idea of like what yoga can do for you, right? And it's like, if you do yoga with me, then like you could be like this beautiful, perfect human doing handstands on the beach in a bikini every day. And like I do handstands in my short shorts and my long socks in my kitchen, and then I drink coffee with like my hot husband, and that's what we do all day. Like it like sells this image, which is like completely like the antithesis to what I think yoga really means and what it really is. And it's hard for me because there are teachers that I respect so much. And I'm not even saying that those are the ones who are transparent, but like it would suck to feel like the teacher that you revere as being someone who's so like an incredible leader in the yoga community could potentially be like also contributing to this like false idea of what it takes or what it means or like what the yoga practice is. I don't know, bothers me. It's kind of sad.
Yeah. And the thing is that those people, here's the rub. Like you pay the money in the beginning to get seen, but your content is really what keeps you going. If you
I
are
agree with that.
competent, and if you are you know, and you have a couple teachers who for certain this is true of, like their philosophy, approach, perspective, and content have kept them elevated, right?
Totally.
And so I think that there's a distinct integrity there. The question, and I'm the first one to say that the marketing is wrong, like isn't wrong. I don't think that there's anything wrong with it inherently. And I don't think that it really goes against any of the yogic training or teaching. As long as your intention is clear that the abundance and the money are secondary to the message.
Totally.
You know, there's nothing, you know, I hate to come this close to sounding like, you know, something Bikram might say, but there's nothing in yoga that says you have to be poor. Like,
yeah, totally.
right. And yet, there is a non-grasping rule, right? And so as long as you can stay in your truth and not grasp for that, if you're reaching to expand the message and the teaching and the lessons, as opposed to gobbling up a market share, right? What is your intention as a brand, as a teacher, as a group of teachers?
Yeah.
As long as that intention is clearly about the practice, then I think karmically you're safe.
That's all I care about, being karmically safe. And I think that's a really good point, though. I think I think I had gotten maybe on a tangent with what I was talking about, but like, I don't think so. With what I'm about to say next, like I should be clear that I don't think that I'm not thinking of well-respected teachers when I say this, but like sometimes I feel that people are sharing yoga because, well, like exactly because of what you're talking about, like from the like trying to make money aspect. And I think maybe for me, what has caused so much hesitation with being online is that I was like really worried that I would just be compared to or put in the same boat as these people who sell yoga as a commodity at like in a way that I find kind of maybe disrespectful of the practice, right? Like the like handstands on the beach and bikini stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was hard for me to feel like I was going to be like in the same boat as these people. And I wonder if it was because I was being, maybe there was like a fear or a hesitation, like an ego problem with like, oh, would I be able to like stand out against this like whole sea of people? And then also it's like, I don't know, it just brings up a lot of feelings, and I'll be like the first person to admit that they're not all like that, like that they're maybe not things that I like should be feeling, or maybe they're things that are like not necessarily fair to feel.
I think though we had to allow ourselves to be human here. I think that if we're talking about it and we're questioning it and we're processing it in real time and we're examining our emotional response to it through the lens of our societal reality and the fact that you and I both have to pay our rent, right? And then through the lens of like knowing your value as a practitioner, as a teacher, knowing that you do have something to offer that is different than other people, or people wouldn't be like, now Elena, answer me this question. They'd be asking Joe Schmo, right? Instead. And so we have to honor that talent within us. We have to honor our knowledge base. We have to honor the fact that we are fallible. We have to honor the fact that we are in the act of processing these very real new questions as they come up. And I think that it's totally fine for us to not have a crystallized, perfect synopsis of like, yep, here's how I feel. This is my stance, right?
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. And I think that's a really great reminder. Also, I feel like I should clarify that I don't have problems with people posting pictures of themselves doing handstands in bikinis on the beach. I think the thing that bothers me is like, you know what, if you like want to be hot and you're like showing that you're cool and you can do this cool shit, like fucking just say that. Like don't post like a Buddha quote underneath, and then don't talk about like selling, don't like try to sell enlightenment through your like very toned body, which is really nice. Like it's a great body, but you know what I mean? Like it's like
I
the fact
love
that it's not
your body on the beach in a bikini upside down. It doesn't
right.
make sense for me. It's not spiritual. It does
Yeah.
nothing for, yeah, exactly.
I just think that when you try to sell those things under the guise of like, you'll be enlightened if you know, like the message you're selling is like, you can look like me and you can be like enlightened, and like, this is what yoga is, right? And that's maybe where it gets me. I don't have a problem with people posting sexy pictures.
We do not slut or kink shame here. We are
Yes.
big fans of both. I'm just saying.
Thanks for including me in that.
I am all inclusive.
Aw. Yes, I feel seen.
Yeah. It's just, I think you're right. It's like, again, it comes down to intention. It's like,
yes, intention's key.
Yeah. I want to show you how flexible my spine is and how strong my core is. I'm going to do this thing and it's going to be fucking cool. But I'm also going to say, do you know that it took me 17 years to be able to do this?
Yeah, the process.
And
huge.
I have a body that is really flexible in this one spot. So this isn't as hard for me as it will be for you. This is going to be really, really, really fucking hard for you. I'm not showing off to make you think that like, if you come to me as a teacher, you're going to be able to do this thing. Because frankly, doing this thing does not make me a good person, does not make me a good practitioner, does not make me a good yoga teacher. Being able to do this thing simply says, I have both a strong core and a flexible spine, period.
Right.
That's it, right? And that's okay, as long as, like you say, I'm clear about what it is I'm putting out there.
Yeah. Intention and like showing the processes, I think those are huge pieces of it.
Yeah. Although now I
Yeah.
think about it, I think I definitely advertised, come do yoga with me. And I had a picture of myself doing a righteous camel. And now I'm like, oh, fuck it.
Yeah.
But
Don't think too hard about it.
didn't promise enlightenment. No Buddha quotes, no Rumi, and there was nothing said about being a better person. It was 100%. Look what I can do. Don't you want to do yoga with me?
Oh yeah, I've definitely
marketing.
done stuff like that. Right. If you take yoga with me, you will not become a better person.
Totally.
You might become a worse person. I'm not responsible.
No, that's on you. So,
Yeah,
not me, not you. It's all you. Yeah.
you good.
Awesome. Okay. Well, dang, we went there.
Yeah,
So
we did. We
all in
did go
all,
there.
we I think both have made an evolution on like just the acceptance of being online and teaching and being students and what the possibilities there are, and that I think we have yet to realize exactly what's possible with that video
Yeah,
connection, and also just how fascinating it's going to be to watch the comeback. We'll have another episode or two at least as the phases start opening between Washington and Oregon. I think that our states have, Washington, Oregon, and California have a pact between the governors to do things at the same time to
yeah,
try to like encourage people to stay put instead of like migrating to places with extra openness
totally.
that are close by. So yeah, we'll keep having this conversation. In fact, the meeting I'm having tonight with my coworkers at our local studio is talking about like how people have been doing and what the platform's been like and how successful that's been, and the one that I've only looked at today, and thankfully this will post after that meeting.
Yeah, people will just know your shame later.
Totally, exactly. They're not going to watch this. So yeah, I'm really curious to see what our studios do for the comeback.
We will see. Only time will tell.
Time indeed. Time indeed. Thanks, you guys, for being here, listening to us ramble on and in and around and through all the stuff. It's always a delight for us, and we hope that you get out of it something akin to what we get out of it. And if you guys have requests for conversations, don't hesitate to contact us through the yogaengineer.com contact form. Or we do have an Instagram account, Team Yoga Engineer. We are on Twitter at engineer_yoga, and Facebook at Yoga Engineer /Yoga Engineer. So all sorts of places that you can get in contact with us and share what it is that you would like to talk about. Maybe someday we will have live call-ins or a chat to answer questions, because
How fun.
yeah, someday, who knows?
Maybe.
Yeah, you guys out there have to share this with a bunch of people in order for those kinds of things to happen. So not that this is a marketing ploy, but I'm just saying. All right.
Very smooth.
Yeah, nothing but over here. Nothing but smooth.
Smooth like butter.
Indeed. All right, you guys, again, thank you for letting us ramble, and we appreciate you. If you feel compelled to make a donation to our cause and keep this thing getting bigger, growing, and getting out there, then you can send us donations of any denomination to Venmo at Richelle, Richelle dash Ricard, Ricard. And we'll make sure that those get to the right place if in the comments you say the Yoga Engineers podcast. Yeah, thanks so much. I'm Richelle Ricard.
I'm Elena Chung.
Indeed. We are the Yoga Engineers, and we will see you next time. Take care.
Bye.
I'll wait for you to stop chewing.
Oh, sorry. Are you sure this doesn't make a good intro?
Oh no, I'm definitely leaving this part in.
Great. Okay.
Kidding. Okay.
I'm ready.
3, 2, 1.